The man was not looking for adventure. He was only looking for a quiet place. His name did not matter much. He was an ordinary human, tired of noise, tired of people, tired of cities that never slept. When he saw the cabin online, it felt like a mistake. The price was too low. The pictures were old. The location was strange, deep forest, far from any town, near a river that did not even have a proper name. Still, he bought it. The seller did not smile during the deal. He kept checking the forest behind the cabin, as if something was watching. When a man asked why the cabin was so cheap, the seller only said one thing: "People do not stay long here." That night, the man arrived at the cabin. It was small but strong. Old wood, thick walls, no broken windows. The forest around it was silent, too silent. No birds, no insects. Even the wind felt careful, like it did not want to disturb something. Inside, the cabin smelled of dust and time. There was a bed, a table, and a fireplace. Nothing else. No phone signal. No internet. Perfect silence. Or so he thought. After midnight, the man woke up. The ground was shaking. Not strong, not violent. Just a slow, deep vibration, like something very big was moving far away. The cups on the table rattled softly. The wooden walls made a low sound, like they were breathing. The shaking stopped. The man sat on the bed, holding his breath. He waited. Nothing happened. He told himself it was an earthquake, or heavy animals, maybe trucks. He did not know. He lay back down, but sleep did not come easily again. In the morning, sunlight filled the cabin. Everything looked normal. Too normal. He stepped outside. The forest looked different. The trees were tall, too tall. Their shadows stretched long across the ground. Near the cabin, the soil was soft, pressed down in strange shapes. The man bent closer. His heart beat faster. Footprints. They were not animal prints. They were not human either. They looked like bare feet, but massive. Each one was longer than his arm. He followed them for a short distance, then stopped. The footprints led toward the river. The locals had warned him about the river. Before buying the cabin, he had visited the nearest village. The people there were polite but distant. When he mentioned the cabin, their faces changed. One old woman grabbed his arm and whispered, "Do not go near the water, especially in the morning." He laughed then. He thought they were joking. Now, standing alone in the forest, the warning felt heavy. The man tried to shake the fear away. He told himself there was a simple answer. Maybe machines. Maybe art. Maybe someone was playing a joke. Still, curiosity pulled him forward. As he walked, the sound reached him. Water. Not gentle water. Not a small stream. This was heavy splashing. Slow. Deep. Powerful. Like large stones being dropped again and again. The air felt warm near the river. The ground vibrated softly under his feet. The trees grew thinner, opening toward a wide riverbank. He stopped behind a thick tree. The river was huge, wider than it looked on the map. The water moved in strange patterns, bending and circling as if something inside it was alive. Then he saw movement. Large shapes rose from the water. Very large. At first, his mind refused to understand what his eyes were seeing. He blinked. He held the tree tighter. 3 figures stood in the river. They were women. Giant women. Their heads were above the trees. Their bodies shined under the morning light. The river reached only their knees. Each movement sent waves crashing against the shore. The man's breath stopped. They were not angry. They were not violent. They moved slowly, calmly, as if the river belonged to them. The forest was silent. Even the wind had stopped. One of the giants turned her head. Her eyes moved toward the trees. Toward him. The man stepped back by mistake. A branch snapped under his foot. The giant smiled, and in that moment, the man understood one thing clearly. This cabin was not abandoned. It was waiting. The man did not run. His legs wanted to move, but fear locked his body in place. He stood behind the tree, his heart beating so loud he was sure the giants could hear it. The 3 giant women stood in the river, water sliding down their skin like silver lines. Every small movement they made sent waves across the riverbank. The forest around them felt small, weak, like it was bowing in silence. The giant who had turned toward him tilted her head slightly. "You can come out," she said. Her voice was deep but calm. It did not sound angry. It did not echo like thunder. It sounded careful. The man swallowed hard. He knew hiding was useless now. Slowly, he stepped out from behind the tree. His hands were empty, raised slightly, showing he was not a threat. Compared to them, he felt smaller than an insect. The other two giants stopped moving. All three of them looked at him. "You are human," one of them said. It was not a question. The man nodded. His mouth was dry. "Yes." The first giant smiled again. "Good. We were hoping it would be one of you." That sentence confused him more than it scared him. "Hoping?" he asked. The giants moved closer to the riverbank. The water pulled away from their steps, as if it did not want to touch them. When they stopped, they knelt down. Even kneeling, they were taller than the tallest trees. Up close, the man could see their faces clearly. They looked strong, ancient, and strangely kind. Their eyes were bright, filled with something that looked like memory. "We do not see humans often anymore," the tallest giant said. "They stopped coming long ago." "I didn't know," the man said honestly. "I just bought a cabin." At the word cabin, the giants exchanged slow looks. That cabin, one of them said quietly, was not meant for everyone. The man felt a chill. "What do you mean?" The first giant reached out and touched the ground near him. Her fingers were as big as tree trunks, yet the soil did not break. Instead, it settled like it trusted her. "The land chooses," she said. "The cabin is a door. Only some humans open it." The man did not fully understand, but one thing became clear. This was not an accident. Suddenly, the ground shook again. Stronger this time. The man nearly fell, but the second giant quickly placed her hand behind him, steadying him without touching. The forest groaned. Birds flew away all at once. The giant stood up, their faces changing. "That sound should not have come so soon," the tallest one said. "What sound?" the man asked. The third giant looked down at him. "The deep one is waking." Before he could ask more, the giants turned their attention back to him. "You must not stay near the river at night," the first giant said. "The cabin will protect you for now." "For now," the man repeated. "Yes," she replied. "Protection is not permanent." The man's fear slowly turned into something else, curiosity. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Why not just scare me away?" The giants were silent for a moment. Then the tallest one spoke. "Because humans are strange," she said. "You are small. You are weak. But when danger comes, you step forward instead of hiding." The man did not feel brave. He did not feel special. Yet the giants were watching him like he mattered. "We guard this forest," the second giant said. "We guard the river. But there are places even we cannot enter." She pointed toward the ground. "Below," she said. The earth vibrated again, longer this time. A low sound echoed through the land, like a breath taken by something far too large. The man's stomach tightened. "What is down there?" he asked. The giants did not answer right away. Finally, the first giant spoke softly. "Something old," she said. "Something that hates the surface. Something that remembers humans." The man felt his blood run cold. "Remembers us how?" he asked. The giant's eyes darkened. "As prey," she said. The river suddenly surged behind them, crashing hard against the rocks. The forest leaned inward as if listening. The tallest giant looked down at the man again. "You should go back to the cabin now," she said. "Night will come soon." The man nodded slowly. As he turned to leave, the first giant spoke one last time. "Human," she said. He stopped. "You were not chosen by mistake." The man walked back toward the cabin, his mind racing, his heart heavy. Behind him, the giants stepped back into the river. The water closed around them, hiding their massive forms. But the shaking did not stop. Deep underground, something moved, and it was awake. The man did not sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the bed inside the cabin, listening. The walls felt thicker now, stronger, as if they were awake. The fire in the fireplace burned without sound. Outside, the forest was dark but not empty. The ground moved again. This time it was not small. The cabin shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The man stood up fast, his heart pounding. He thought of the giant women, their calm voices, their warning. The deep one is waking. He looked at the floor. For a moment, he felt something strange. Not fear, not panic. The ground felt alive. The shaking stopped suddenly. Silence returned, heavier than before. At sunrise, the man stepped outside. The air smelled sharp, like rain and metal mixed together. The forest looked tense. Trees leaned slightly inward, like they were listening to the ground. Near the cabin, the footprints were back. Fresh, but these were different. They were not giant footprints. They were long lines, like something had dragged itself across the earth. The man followed them carefully. They circled the cabin, then disappeared into the soil, as if the ground had opened and swallowed them. A low sound rolled through the forest. Not loud, not close, but deep. The man felt it in his chest. He turned toward the river. The giants were already there. They stood on the far side of the water, watching the land. The river moved faster today, rough and uneasy. When they saw the man, one of them raised her hand. "Do not come closer," she said. The man stopped at the edge of the trees. "It is rising," the tallest giant said. "Faster than we expected." "What is it?" the man asked. The second giant looked at him carefully. "You need to understand something first." She pointed at the cabin behind him. "That cabin is not a home," she said. "It is a lock." The man felt a chill. "A lock for what?" "For the thing below," the first giant replied. "Long ago, humans helped seal it." The man stared at them. "Humans?" "Yes," the tallest giant said. "Your kind was here before us. You fought it. You learned its weakness." The ground shook again, longer this time. "Why can't you stop it?" the man asked. The giants were silent for a moment. Then the second giant spoke. "We are strong on the surface," she said. "But the tunnels below are narrow. Deep. Old." She looked down at him. "Too small for us." The man understood. Fear filled him, but also something else. A strange sense of responsibility. "What happens if it wakes fully?" he asked. The first giant's voice grew serious. "The forest will fall," she said. "The river will dry. And then it will hunt." "Hunt what?" the man asked. The giant looked straight into his eyes. "Humans," she said. The man felt his hand shake. He thought of cities, of people who had no idea this thing existed. "I didn't choose this," he said quietly. "No," the tallest giant replied. "But you answered." The river behind them suddenly pulled backward, as if something had sucked the water down. Rocks cracked. The earth split open a short distance away, then sealed itself again. The man stumbled back. "That was close," the second giant said. The first giant stepped forward. She knelt and placed something on the ground between them. It was an old metal object. Simple. Human-made. "A key," she said, and a warning. The man picked it up. It was warm. "What does it open?" he asked. The giant's eyes darkened. "The way down," she said. The forest went silent again. The man looked at the cabin, then at the river, then at the giants. "I'm not a hero," he said. The tallest giant smiled softly. "Humans never think they are," she said, until they stepped forward. Another deep sound rolled through the ground. This time, it felt closer. The man closed his hand around the key. Behind him, the cabin door creaked open on its own. The cabin door stayed open. The man stood still for a moment, staring into the dark inside. The forest behind him was silent. The giants watched from across the river, their faces serious. "This is where we stop," the tallest giant said. The man looked back at them. "You won't come." She shook her head slowly. "Below this point, the ground rejects us." Another deep vibration rolled through the land. Dust fell from the trees. The man tightened his grip around the metal key. "If I don't come back?" he asked. The second giant answered softly. "Then we will seal the land forever." The words felt heavy. The man took a deep breath and stepped inside the cabin. The door closed behind him on its own. The light inside the cabin changed. The walls looked older now, covered with symbols carved deep into the wood. The air felt cold and dry. The floorboards began to move. A section of the floor slid away, revealing a dark hole leading down. Stone steps waited below. The man swallowed and began to descend. Each step took him farther from the surface. The air grew thick. The sounds of the forest disappeared. Only a slow, deep breathing sound remained. Not his. Something else was breathing. The tunnel walls were narrow, smooth, and ancient. Scratch marks covered the stone, long and deep. The man touched one carefully. It felt warm. The ground trembled. A voice filled the tunnel. "You came back," it said. The The man froze. The voice was not loud. It was not angry. It was calm, and that made it worse. I remember your kind, the voice continued. Small, loud, brave, and fragile. The man forced himself to speak. I'm not here to fight. The voice laughed softly. The tunnel walls vibrated. You are always here to fight, it said. You just lie to yourself. The man reached a wide, open chamber. The ceiling was high, lost in darkness. Strange shapes moved along the walls, like shadows without bodies. In the center of the chamber, something huge shifted. Eyes opened. Too many eyes. They glowed faintly, watching him from the dark. The man's knees felt weak, but he did not run. What do you want? He asked. The creature moved slightly forward. Its body scraped against the stone, sending sparks into the air. I want the surface, it said. I want the river. I want the forest. And humans? The man asked. The creature paused. I want them to remember fear, it said. The man clenched his fists. You're trapped for a reason. The creature's eyes narrowed. Yes, it said, because humans cheated. The tunnel behind the man shook. Cracks spread across the walls. You sealed me with tricks, the creature said. With locks and lies. With hope. The man looked down at the key in his hand. So this opens your prison, he said. The creature's voice softened. It opens a choice. The eyes fixed on him. Free me, the creature said, and I will spare your kind. Hide me again, and I will break free myself. The man felt sweat run down his face. You're lying, he said. The creature laughed, louder this time. Humans always say that, it replied, and humans always lose. The ground shook violently. Stones fell from the ceiling. One crashed close to the man, breaking into dust. The creature began to rise. The man raised the key. No, he said. The creature stopped. Silence filled the chamber. You still don't understand, the man continued. Humans don't win because we're strong. He looked straight into the glowing eyes. We win because we adapt. The key began to glow faintly. The symbols on the walls lit up, responding to it. The chamber trembled harder. The creature roared. What are you doing? It demanded. The man's voice was steady now. What humans always do. The ground cracked open beneath the creature. Light burst from below, wrapping around its body like chains. The creature screamed, not in pain but in anger. This is not over, it hissed. Others will wake. The man stepped back as the chamber began to collapse. A new path opened behind him. He turned and ran. The man ran. Stone cracked behind him as the tunnel shook. Dust filled the air. The ground screamed as if it did not want to close again. The creature's roar followed him, angry and full of promise. This is not over, the voice echoed. The man did not look back. He reached the stairs just as the tunnel behind him collapsed. The stone sealed itself like a wound closing. The breathing sound stopped. Silence. For a moment, the man stood there, shaking. His chest burned. His hands were covered in dust and blood. The key in his hand was dark again, cold and quiet. The floor slid back into place. The cabin returned to normal. Light poured in as the door opened on its own. The man stepped outside. The forest was still. Then the ground moved once strong and deep and stopped. Across the river, the three giant women stood watching. Slowly, the river calmed. The tallest giant took one step forward. Her eyes searched the land, then settled on the man. It is sealed again, she said. The man nodded. He felt tired beyond words. For how long? He asked. The giants were silent. Long enough, the second giant said finally. The forest seemed to relax. Leaves moved again. Birds returned to the sky. The river flowed in its natural path, no longer bending or pulling away. The danger had passed. For now, the giants knelt before the man. This time, not in warning. In respect. You stood where even we could not, the first giant said. You faced what remembers your kind. The man shook his head. I was afraid the whole time. The tallest giant smiled gently. So were the first humans, she said. That never stopped them. The man looked at the cabin behind him. It looked smaller now. Simpler. Just wood and stone again. What happens to this place? He asked. It rests, the second giant replied. And it waits. For another human? The man asked. The giant's eyes softened. Perhaps, or perhaps for you. The giants stepped back into the river. The water rose around them, quiet and smooth. Within moments, their massive forms disappeared beneath the surface, leaving only ripples behind. The man was alone again. Days passed. Nothing attacked. Nothing moved beneath the ground. The shaking never returned. The cabin stayed warm at night. The forest felt peaceful, like a guard that had finished its watch. The man stayed. He repaired the cabin. He learned the paths of the forest. He respected the river and kept his distance. At night, he sometimes felt the ground listening but calm. Far away, humans lived their lives without knowing how close danger had been, and how close it could be again. One evening, as the sun set, the man sat on the porch of the cabin. The forest glowed orange and gold. The river reflected the sky like a mirror. He thought of the creature's words. "You are only human." The man smiled slightly. Only human. Small. Weak. Fragile. Yet humans build locks for monsters. Humans walk into darkness so others never have to. Humans lose cities, worlds, even stars, and still step forward. That is why the giants trusted them. That is why the forest waited. The wind moved through the trees like a quiet promise. The man looked toward the river one last time. Deep below the land, something slept, and on the surface, a single human kept watch. The end.